Well, happy Wednesday, Christ the King. It's Matt back with another edition of Midweek Courage. And I've got a confession to make right up front that this edition is a bit motivated by selfishness. I am really just going to share today what I really need myself. But I'm guessing that there are many others of you who are feeling this need too. Maybe you don't even realize it. But in the midst of a season where there's so many uncertainties and unknowns and balancing a new normal of work, family, and all sorts of things, I've found that there's been moments and days where I've lost sight of Jesus in all of this. I've found myself in moments not savoring my King. And so this week is designed just to give all of us a dose of Jesus and his glory. And I trust that it will benefit you and put hope in your hearts today. So I want to read for us from Luke chapter 8, starting in verse 22. And you'll probably immediately recognize this scene. It's Jesus and the disciples traveling by boat to the land of the Gerasenes to confront a demoniac, a demon-possessed man, and Jesus is going to cast out this whole legion of demons into a herd of pigs. And I want to read the whole account for us and make a couple of observations and ask a question that will get us thinking rightly about Jesus and how he can help us in the midst of the season we find ourselves in. So this is Luke chapter 8, starting in verse 22. One day he and his disciples got into a boat, and he told them, "Let's cross over to the other side of the lake." So they set out, and as they were sailing, he fell asleep. Then a fierce windstorm came down on the lake. They were being swamped and were in danger. They came and woke him up, saying, "Master, Master, we are going to die." Then he got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waves. So they ceased, and there was a calm. He said to them, "Where is your faith?" They were fearful and amazed, asking one another, "Who then is this? He commands even the winds and the waves, and they obey him." Then they sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When he got out on land, a demon-possessed man from the town met him. For a long time he had worn no clothes and did not stay in a house but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out, fell down before him, and said in a loud voice, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was guarded, bound by chains and shackles, he would snap the restraints and be driven by the demon into deserted places. "What is your name?" Jesus asked him. "Legion," he said, because many demons had entered him, and they begged him not to banish them into the abyss. A large herd of pigs was there feeding on the hillside. The demons begged him to permit them to enter the pigs, and he gave them permission. The demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. When the men who tended them saw what had happened, they ran off and reported in the town and in the countryside. Then people went out to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and found the man the demons had departed from, sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Meanwhile, the eyewitnesses reported to them how the demon-possessed man was delivered. Then all the people of the Gerasene region asked Jesus to leave them because they were gripped by great fear. So getting into the boat, he returned. The man from whom the demons had departed begged him earnestly to be with him. But he sent him away and said, "Go back to your home and tell all that God has done for you." And off he went, proclaiming throughout the town how much Jesus had done for him. Well, we're in this section of Luke's gospel where Luke is raising this question over and over again. Who is this guy? Who is this Jesus of Nazareth who has appeared and is now doing all of these miraculous things? In fact, it's the question on the disciples' lips after Jesus calms the storm in the text I just read. And it's the question that Luke is putting before us, the readers, the listeners. Who is this guy? But more than that, this passage comes immediately before Peter's famous confession that Jesus is the Christ. He's the Messiah. He's the King who has come to deliver Israel. And so our passage is asking an even more detailed and explicit question than merely who is this guy, but it's asking what kind of Messiah is Jesus? What kind of king is Jesus of Nazareth? And this passage gives the answer like this. Jesus is the cosmic King of Kings who will crush Satan and reverse the curse of sin. Jesus is the cosmic King of Kings who will crush Satan under his feet and reverse the curse of sin as far as the curse is found. Amazing. So I just want to point out a couple of things from this passage to put hope in our hearts as we think of Jesus and just how unique and wonderful and awesome he is as the cosmic King of Kings. This passage gives us two examples of untamable forces subdued by the word of Jesus. We see this raging storm come out of nowhere and overwhelm this boat full of fishermen and a sleeping Jesus. And Jesus simply wakes up, rebukes the wind and waves, and there is a calm. Immediate obedience from an untamable weather phenomenon. And this is only really the precursor, because Jesus is headed across the Sea of Galilee for the specific purpose of confronting this demon-possessed man in order to set him free. And so when Jesus arrives on the shore of the region of the Gerasenes, this demoniac comes running out of this cemetery, this imagine kind of incredible Hulk brute of a man, and he falls down at the feet of Jesus and immediately begs Jesus not to destroy him. Demons who break shackles and have of whom the whole countryside has no answer fall at Jesus' feet before Jesus even touches the shore getting out of the boat. An untamable evil force, an agent of Satan, in fact, an entire army of Satan's demons and soldiers subdued by the word of Jesus, asking, can we please go in these pigs? All of this shows us that Jesus is intent not just on being some miracle meteorologist who calms storms, but Jesus is going for the jugular. The curse of sin was instigated by the father of lies, and Jesus is going to show us through his interaction with the demoniac and this legion of demons. He's going to give us a foretaste of what he's going to do in the final battle between good and evil. He will crush Satan under his feet forever because he's the cosmic King of Kings. And he's come to reverse the curse of sin. So the question for us today, Christ the King, is how can Jesus' power and authority seen in this passage impact your life today? Not just in some general sense, but I mean, think of the circumstances you find yourself in that are hard. Think of the uncertainties that you're facing. Think of the relationships that are giving you difficulty, that you've been praying for some sort of answer and relief and restoration. How can the cosmic King of Kings, who will crush Satan and reverse the curse of sin, how can he help you today? What are you facing that can be reframed, that can be totally put in a different perspective when you see Jesus, your cosmic King, dominating untamable forces? Well, one of the things God's been teaching me has everything to do with a good and healthy and faithful answer to that question. So follow my logic here for a minute and let me wrap up by saying this. We know that there is absolutely nothing impossible for our God, right? He's conquered the grave. He will defeat Satan. He will vanquish sin. He will restore everything that is broken back to its proper place at the return of Jesus Christ. This text shows us just how powerful Jesus is. He will defeat Satan. Nature and weather and fierce storms have no authority or power over his word. So if Jesus can eliminate hard circumstances, if he can instantly snap his fingers and do away with every difficult and hard thing we face, and he chooses not to, what must we say about this? He's of course capable. This passage shows that his power and his authority are unrivaled, and there is no one who can come close to competing with his word. At his word, demons tremble and flee. At his word, windstorms cease and create a great calm. It means there must be goodness in the hard. If Jesus conquered the grave and died for my sin, and I'm suffering through hard things right now, there must be goodness in the hard. Because Jesus isn't just all powerful. So we can't just say, I'm struggling with something. Jesus has the power to fix it, and he isn't fixing it, so he must not be good. We can never conclude that because Jesus has the power in every circumstance that he doesn't exercise it, something must be wrong. Maybe he's indifferent to our suffering, or he's not actually as good as he claims. We must never believe that. But when we have hard things going on in our lives, when we see the cosmic King of Kings, we recognize there must be good in the hard. Because Jesus is not just all powerful. He's present with his people forever, working for the good of those who love him. That's who he is. He always exercises his power and authority for the good of his people. That's who he is. He's a good king. And we can trust him with everything we're facing. So friends, let me encourage you today. This passage shows us that Jesus is the cosmic King of Kings who will crush Satan and reverse the curse of sin. Look to him to find the grace and the strength and the endurance to persevere through whatever it is you're facing. Take care. We'll see you soon.